Anything else? Any news from any projects or anything out in the world? All right. Okay, we passed out these goals. This was from our first or second meeting at the beginning of the semester, where we asked people to spell out goals they had for the course, things that sort of fell under self-development. We grouped them afterwards. Particular kinds of skills, leadership, particularly constituencies people wanted to work with, things wanted to learn from others, outcomes people wanted to accomplish, strategies that they wanted to develop, and other, like have fun and stay close to the ground. Okay. Oh, and see if I want to learn more. Anyway, this is sort of a refresher to just kind of put you back in the frame of mind with which we started this journey together at the beginning of the semester. Because what we want to do now is just go around and ask you to reflect on how we did. And we'll ask you to remind us of your project. We heard quite a bit about outcomes on Tuesday. Remind us of your project. And then what you found of most value in the course this semester. You know, what you found of most value, what you take from it. And then tell us also what you would most like to have seen happen that didn't, so that we can look prospectively toward next year when we teach the course again in the spring, or this course again, and then there'll be other kind of related courses as well. But that's it. And now, aren't we going to do some listing up here, posting up here? I thought I was going to get some help.
Okay.
Oh, in fact, it was Rachel and Jama. Yeah. In fact, we have this specially planned. This is like to recreate the Bob Reich, Alan Simpson moment.
Will you maybe write the things that you wanted us to reflect upon up on the board, because I wasn't able to get them all down as you were talking.
It's just two things.
Okay.
It's just two things. It's remind us of your project.
Okay.
What you took of most value. What was of most value to you in the course of this semester from the class, from your experience in the class? And then secondly, what you would most like to have seen us engage with, do, improve, whatever. This is deltas and pluses and deltas. It's just another version of pluses and deltas. It's all pluses and deltas. That's all.
Okay,
so it's improvement, what worked for you, what your project is. Just those two. And now,
sorry, we're still organizing ourselves.
Vanna White, and no, it's, this is so it's legible. But no, Bob Reich and Alan Simpson did a show called The Long and Short of It.
Tell me about Bob Bob Reich exactly the height.
Bob Reich, yeah, it was kind of okay, so is that pretty clear? And then we'll see where this goes from this. So yeah, okay.
I think the thing I took the most value to
Oh wait,
was
I'm sorry. Just one thing. We have to monitor time. So we have, how much time do we have? We have, well, we have about 50 minutes. And we have how many people here?
25.
Yeah, a minute and a half. So, okay. So we're just going to time.
yes.
Okay. Oh, because Melody's recording this for us there. All right, good.
Right.
Now we're all set. Yeah.
The thing I valued the most
Remind
was,
us of your project.
Oh, I sorry. I worked with the Coalition to Educate, Mobilize, and Vote, which was a partnership between the JPNDC, Neighborhood Development Corporation, and Hyde Square Task Force, both located in Hyde Square, Virginia. So, is that all you want to know, or what I was?
Yeah, most value. And
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. The thing I thought was most valuable was the.
This will be deducted from your time. No, it's like,
the thing I found most valuable was our section discussions, especially just having a community of practice, a community of reflective practitioners. I feel like that's something that's always been lacking in my professional life, and it was definitely something I haven't or to improve for next time. I think that if I had gone into my project knowing I needed to educate my my hosts more about what our class was about, I think I might have been a little bit more successful early on. But I think that I realized too far along that they had no idea what I was really trying to get out of it, or the kind of concepts I was trying to learn. That should have been something that could have been put into our heads to do like the first time we meet them.
Should we just go around, or? Joy?
My project was part of my work organizing with congregations in Chelmsford to get a development of new affordable housing. And I think what I took out of the course, the goal that I set at the beginning was to develop a more reflective practice, and that's definitely what I took coming out, was formalizing my learning and getting used to writing reflection papers in a format for doing that. And also just personally getting to know people through one-to-ones, and I think as a Delta, it would have been nice to have that encouraged at the beginning in the class. Mike Diaz thought I was hitting on him when I asked for a one-to-one, and he was like, what is this about? It's part of the class, we're doing sort of peer mentoring.
Good point.
So my project was organizing tenants with the Chinese Progressive Association. And basically we want to give the tenants more voice in the way their buildings were managed. And I think the most value I got out of this class was actually in the after class sessions, in the little sessions we had with Marshall and our little groups, where the original intention was to practice our one-to-ones, but we actually learn about each other's histories. And I myself was inspired by many of the personal histories that were shared during these sessions. And my delta would be getting more Asian American organizations and the roster organizations as a choice. For instance, because I found myself in the beginning of the class spending a lot of time calling up these organizations because the groups were groups I was interested in.
That's good. Just one thing on that. Who were the people participating in the group? The story group. It became a story workshop actually, and yeah, it has been. We did a little debriefing today just on that, which it's the first time we've ever done that, and it just sort of happened, and it has been a tremendous learning experience. And so we're going to build this in as part of the class, not a required part, because part of the thing here was that it was people who wanted to do this. But we learned a whole lot about how a group can help its members coach their public stories and learn to tell public stories in a very powerful way. And so I just want to thank the members of that group in particular for that particular piece of learning. It was neat. So the Delta is time story workshop. It's not like a negative, it's like something you want to have.
Got it.
Okay,
I'll just write. My project was to organize the group of Iraqi people and a group of American people to have Kennedy School of Government offer a class about nation buildings and a case study related to Iraq. The most important thing that I learned from the class is how to generate power out of vulnerable people. And I would really carry that always with me. As a Delta, to be honest, maybe I'm a bias, but I don't have anything that I would like to see change.
Hilda, we missed you. So.
And we are saying our project and
what we found most valuable from the class and what will most improve for next year.
my project was to support the development of community-based projects for 6 different regional groups in the Middle East around peace building. And what I learned from the class is my favorite chart is the one about the differences between community-based organizations and community building and the formal kind of bureaucracies. And I realized that there's a range of organizing that can happen, and I felt that the class really gave me an opportunity to kind of ferret that out, figure it out, and see where we can go, how we have to negotiate when we can't do it the way we want to do it. Change. I think I would have, don't anybody kill me, but I would have liked more structure at the beginning. And and if structure means more hand-holding, I think that's okay to use that word. So more hand-holding, more kind of getting, I felt like we just didn't get started soon enough, even though, so we just, I know I didn't get started soon enough. So just more, what would that look like?
Do you mean like somebody pushing people into the water? Is that
No, boiling water. I think that could have started a little bit sooner.
What exactly? Like what concrete things?
Maybe like a deadline,
Okay, gotcha.
like an earlier deadline for making this commitment to the project.
Let's go back over there now. Dina.
My project is organizing to get a resolution passed with the Episcopal Church at their General Convention, which happens in June. And I guess the plus would be looking at different ways of mobilizing resources and having long-term commitments from them and maintaining those relationships. And I guess the delta would be I formed good relationships with my section, so maybe some of the collaborations we did at the beginning where we all met, if we could do a couple at the end, because I only feel like I know the people in my section really well, and not necessarily a lot of people in the class.
Well, I learned a lot about leadership in this class. About jumping in, that picture of the tree, and I guess I hadn't really had that much experience. So for me, I went through a very long learning process about what to do and how to make judgments, and so that was helpful, and the readings around it were helpful, and Jamie was very helpful. So that was the plus, and the delta was. I'm not sure. I mean,
my project was organizing the less seen voices in Austin Brighton to get them to influence the vision of the green space there. My positive was the importance of building relationships. And my delta, I think in hindsight, it would be great to see more of public storytelling.
Can you come back and I apologize? I wasn't here for the instructions.
I'll model
I
it.
just-
I'll model
Yeah,
it,
and then I
you
should
can
go
go back
after
to
you.
it.
Thank you. Thank you.
My project was to organize nurses to pass a pro-choice resolution in the Massachusetts Nursing Associations. What I found most valuable was working in the sections and hearing other people's stories and their struggles with their projects. I guess what I would like to see happen that didn't was that I'd really like either more warning or a makeup session for the day-long session that happened one of the first Saturdays, because I missed it. There was no way I could change my plans. I had bought plane tickets for that weekend, and I really honestly felt like I missed a huge part of the class, and there was no way to make that up. So.
Yes, so my project was to organize the heads of 9 organizations to collect 20,000 signatures between May and June, so it actually hasn't happened yet. What I most valued in this class, I think the reflection papers and the chance to, like, being forced to think and write every week. And I don't know, I could see maybe having us, I mean, I could have read them online, but I could see maybe even doing a little bit more with that. With each other's reflection papers and kind of using that writing as a source of discussion or as a way of getting to know each other as well. So that's
So my project was to organize Harvard medical students and undergraduates in college to see if medical students could help the undergraduates with their medical school applications. The things that I found most helpful with the class, it's already been reiterated one way or another, but it's the idea of the power of stories to actually be able to, I mean, you can learn so much from stories, whether it's values or ways to actually be able to encourage people, motivate. And the things that I would like to improve or change, it would be maybe having the ability to, or encouraging members of the class, several members of the class to maybe work on a common project. I know it can happen just on its own, but maybe an actual encouragement to work together on a common project would be an option.
my project was organizing Harvard College students to make a place for Harvard College advocates for human rights in the overall vision of education at the college. And my plus would be the particular relationships of our section, because I think that that support system was really, really good. And to that end, I would reiterate what you said, and what was said also about, what Zena said about, no, maybe it wasn't, it was Zena, that direction, about having the large group relationship building at the beginning and continue it throughout, because the section was so great, but it would be great to have those relationships span the whole class. And for my Delta, I don't know, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm not quite sure how to say it, but I think I noticed something in our collective sort of experience about, I think we have a lot in common in terms of political leanings and the nature of our project and the spirit sort of what we're trying to accomplish in the world. And I wonder what the class would look like if it tried to incorporate other perspectives that weren't particularly as liberal and justice-oriented. Well, our definition of justice, perhaps. Because I think this organizing stuff can apply to a lot of different, like the 5 people running around on the periphery of the rally on Monday, they could benefit from organizing too. We might not. But saying that is really harmful. And I think that came across in class a lot. There are some causes we like and some causes we don't. And I don't think a class like this should make those distinctions. Yeah. Not necessarily that reflects that I felt alienated, but as trying to consider other perspectives, yeah. I felt alienated on their behalf, I think. And if you look at the students who are in this class versus the students who are in the class that I took, I've only taken 2 classes here, but the one last semester I think had a very much broader diversity of people's experiences and goals.
Okay, good, thank you. Sure.
There's a lot that I learned from this class, and I don't want to be repetitive, so I'm trying to think of what specifically to say that's different. I think, doing a project was so important, so important. It was maybe the most valuable thing was to experience it, at least to try experiencing the concepts we were learning. So I'm really grateful that that was a part of it. But I don't know if this is what you meant, Hilda, but I needed someone to really push me and to say you need to be able to finish that sentence that we started with. I'm organizing who to do what. And it took until a few weeks ago for me to even really understand, and maybe this is just my journey and I needed to figure this out, but to understand that I could do something small and it would be an effective part of something larger, and I needed to figure out how to state that as part of a strategy. And it took until we did the campaign piece and talked about strategy for that to make sense. And I think I needed that. I also, the session we did on running a meeting, I wonder if it would have been more effective to figure out more about storytelling or something at that point. The running the meeting thing didn't feel like that effective for the work, where we were in our organizing.
Just we've been thinking about that really ought to be one-on-one meetings. Is what that really ought to be at the beginning. And so it's relationally grounded. It would be much more useful. At least that's kind of what we've been talking about.
Well, and I think that the Saturday day felt so much like we were getting closer to being there and doing that and connecting that with action too. So
No, that's all.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, I work with a theater group for our queer youth, and they decided they wanted to do a postcard drive in support of equal marriage, and that's what we did. So I have a feeling that I was really not the right person for this class, or this class is not the right class for me, or whatever. Because for me, this whole thing of having to put something into practice that I had absolutely no clue about was just overwhelming and extremely off-putting for me personally. So it's a little difficult to say what did I learn in all this being overwhelmed and everything. But I think one thing that I did find helpful were the organizing notes, because that was kind of sort of my lifeline saying, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what I'm supposed to be putting into practice and everything. So that was really helpful to have those. I kind of wish I had read them in the beginning of the semester, because they're not that long, and I was kind of like thinking, had I just read those 100 pages in the beginning, that might have helped. But my delta with the class, of the way the class was organized, I would have maybe wished that there were more questions and less answers. Sort of, I figure that there's like certain challenges that all organizers encounter often, that we all encountered in the project, and I think we could have wrestled with the questions in a more communal way instead of having like the one answer. That was sort of the model that we were trying to get, and the model could still have been part of that, because they might have been.
No, it's good. Tom?
I organized Harvard graduate students to develop a policy initiative for North Korean human rights to the South Korean government. I think one of the biggest lessons of this class was not only the relationships in session, but really being able to work out like our concrete problems for that week or within your own project, and like getting various perspectives on how you could sort of reframe like how you were approaching it. And we could see in at least our section like people's like different actions and things blending into each other. I think that was really cool to see. In terms of deltas, I have to agree with Kylie was sort of having to educate the workforce, or at least it's setting the deadline initially for that specific delta.
Oh, the deadline.
My project was organizing students active in Latino organizations to build a strategic agenda at Harvard. And I think what I got out of this class so much is that not only in that particular project, but also in projects organizing and for the structure, the organizing notes and the structure of the class, really helped me to think about, I had a lot of aha moments, like thinking back from previous organizing experiences, like, if I had just done that. So I think the structure, the organizing notes, and just reflecting on it in section every week was really helpful. I guess the only part about the structure that I would change is that, kind of similar to what Joe was saying about the campaign, seeing that I think in the beginning would have really helped and helped me frame this project. Know that just the way that my project was framed, I think it would just have organized it that way. So I think
my project was to bring grad school students all across Harvard together to form the first all-Harvard AIDS caucus, and the first meeting is happening on Monday. So the thing that I got out of it, I think it's getting past actually just being aware of some of my belief barriers, and those barriers really are pretty ingrained in me, as I realize. one of it is really trusting people with my story, with myself. I think just getting out there and doing something like that, this project, which really required me to get buy-in from people, collaborate with people instead of the usual way that I was used to working with, which was like a very structured, top-down, or either I was the authority or I was the follower, and I just came into a system. I didn't have to create a system, so this was top of me. So this is a huge period. And what I would hope that if you might consider that could actually get people like me who don't like to talk very much to, talk more, because you let me get away with a lot of not talking.
All right, that's good. You're right.
Build on that, really. I think public communication bit is a huge part of leadership and organizing as well. I think I would really have would really have appreciated having that incorporated into the formal structure of this book instead of like a sideshow.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
My project, I tried to organize Filipino students across the Harvard School so we can form a community. What I got most from doing that was the relationship building, and a lot of people said that, but in not only learning how to trust each other, or a big part of this relationship building is doing that trust that you just mentioned. And not only doing that with the people that I've been meeting from the different schools at Harvard who are Filipino American, but with my section people also, we really formed a space where we can really be open and honest, and I think that was a major part of the relationship, is building that trust. Delta, I think the story sharing, I think I would have liked to have done this after class workshops, but if we integrate that more into being able to do that in class.
I worked with the Boston Youth Organizing Project with the youth at Cambridge and Latin High School, and the youth chose the campaign of Better Bathrooms this year. So I helped them with that, because the bathrooms hadn't been renovated in over 22 years, and we won our campaign, which is great. So what I found most valuable, I would say, is section, because it provided me opportunity to synthesize what I had learned in the previous week and apply it to my individual project, and then see the similarities and differences of other people's projects. And I really liked how we could read each other's reflection papers online, because I was able to see everyone's development. Things that would change. Definitely more collaboration, like other people said, getting to know all you all. And also what Pat just said about wrestling more with the questions and the dilemmas in organizing, because there are definitely a lot of that, instead of coming up with one answer. Maybe we could have done that in groups, like maybe break up for 10 minutes in a group of 5 and wrestle with the dilemmas and the tensions there and organizing.
So my project was working with folks at Harvard College to get a sexual health education program up and running that would be self-sustaining. And looks like that's going to happen for next semester. And what I really liked the most, I think, about the class was the quality and the sincerity of feedback, both on papers and in section, but also in class in general. I felt like there was sort of a pervasive lack of ego, which I really appreciated. I thought people really sort of took issues head on and weren't trying to present anything, which I'm sure you all found can happen in other classes. So I really, really appreciated that. What was hard for me is that I was getting so much quality feedback, but I didn't feel like there was a place for me to be able to respond to it necessarily, because by the time I had gotten feedback on last week's topic, it was already time to then put out my thoughts on the new week's topic. So I felt like I wanted more, especially in the reflection papers, there were great questions posed to me, but I didn't necessarily have a place to then work through those questions and get to an answer. And I feel like perhaps in lieu of some of the theoretical readings that were assigned, which I personally didn't find incredibly helpful, though I did find the organizing notes really helpful, maybe time could be concentrated more on giving more of a chance to reflect on previous week's feedback.
I'm organizing youth in Boston South End at St. Stephen Episcopal Church.
to respond to the violence in the neighborhood through painting a mural and creating a photo storybook about their neighborhood and experiences. The book is getting printed right now, and I'll be offering them for sale at the party tonight. So please get ready. Okay, I think one of the things that was most helpful for me in this class was really having the project and being able to practice these concepts that we're learning and discussing in class. And I think one of the issues that we raised in section was kind of ritualizing the things that are hard to do. So ritualizing those one-on-ones, sort of as Joy alluded to, and ritualizing those hard jumping in moments so that it doesn't seem so awkward, and getting better at keeping that discipline and practicing it. And having the opportunity, I guess I agree with Anne to the extent that we had some opportunity to reflect on what we were doing and how the things that we were doing were organizing, but a little bit more space to reflect and kind of map ourselves out with feedback, I think would have been helpful. Another delta I have is I felt there was an extreme lack of female leadership presented in the readings and examples in class. Dolores Huerta was an integral part of the farm workers movement, and I don't think we've hardly mentioned her, except by name. So kind of a little bit more diversity in the perspectives that are presented as examples of leadership and organizing, I think would be really helpful.
My project was educating Hugsy, the ed school, and eventually Old Harbor, making them aware of immigration issues, and possibly taking action. My pluses were definitely the small group relationship, one-on-one storytelling time, and also just the class discussions and really hearing from people's perspectives and challenges. And in section 2. My deltas, I would have liked.
How you doing over there?
I'm reflecting.
I wonder if I fall.
My deltas, I think it felt like at the beginning of class we got to know a lot of people and do a lot of like one-on-one type things, but then that was it. And then, I mean, it's my fault too. I stayed right in this little corner and, and so, but I would have liked either more, and I wrote on the evaluation, like more social things throughout the year, either implementing into class or just ways that we could get to know each other. Because I think this is a huge resource in this room. And then I still think that I would have rather not had a project. And for me, the readings and the lessons and everything were just so much to grasp that I could reflect on everything that I had already done, that I think I could have just really jumped into that a lot more if I didn't have to worry about a project that I would have been doing anyways.
Okay, so I have been working with La Piñata in Jamaica Plain, organizing elders, parents, and families to raise funds for a youth delegation to Mexico City to go to this Mesoamerican conference and festival. And what I found most valuable in this course is just having this smaller collective where palabra was sacred. And what I mean by palabra is just the power of the word and the power of sharing. And so just having this ownership of this alternate, well, pretty much what I'm talking about is section. And that's what I found to be that's where I found most of my learning and most of my engagement, because oftentimes these larger classes can be very intimidating, and all these, theories are being put on the table, and I don't understand them right away until I really hear a peer of mine kind of break it down for me. So yeah, that's what I found most powerful is our sharing. And what I would have liked to have seen in this course, I think a space where the communities with whom we're working with could come and be more involved, whether it's
inviting them to some of the workshops, inviting them to, like let's say there was a social, just a way where I think I would have found it more beneficial if the compañeros that I was working with was able to really sit in on a lot of the things that we're doing in this academic course.
Well, my project is similar with Paola's, is to create a mural in the South End, just to tell a story within the community, just to kind of gather up their experiences with gun violence in order to decrease the deaths that have been happening. I think one of the positive ideas that I taken from the course was the entire framework, because I'm trying to do work with art and how it has the power to mobilize people and to pretty much organize. It just provided me with the breakdown of how that happens, especially looking at the project and trying to conceptualize it. Has been magical. So it's probably like negative or deltas. I can't really think of any either, but
sorry.
Because I can't write it.
Can't think of any.
Sam. Thanks, Todd. The framework's magic only in the right hands.
Well, I'm organizing a group of members of the Catholic Center at BU to put up together a social service program for the Catholic Center. And plus, it's that I learned to read myself during the process. I learned how to learn, and I know now that I have a method to read myself, to see what am I doing, and throughout the process. That's so valuable. That's what I was looking. I got it from this course. Deltas, couple really quickly. One is the one-to-ones. I wish we could have been able to know that they were so useful at the beginning of the course, because when I was at the middle of the process, it got me by surprise that I should have done those one-to-ones probably 3 weeks before. And I was like, it was too late to engage people in a common vision, because I was just beginning to do the one-to-ones, and that week we should have come up with a common mission, and it was like, oh, I should have done like 3 weeks ago. That's something that. And the other thing is that I would have liked to have a little bit more of readings regarding international cases, Latin American cases. And that's it. But anyways, the readings were very helpful for me.
Thanks.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say, I literally have never been in a class where a professor and a teaching team have put so much into a class. So why don't we give them a round of applause? They certainly expect a lot of us, but I don't know if a lot of you know how much they met outside of this class to prepare, which was pretty amazing. So thank you guys for doing that. My project was to organize the youth in Dorchester in the Quincy Street community to address issues of youth violence. And what I learned from this class in relationship to that project was the difference between in leadership specifically, in developing leaders, and the difference between gathering leaders and developing leaders. And before I've been good at gathering leaders, but not developing leaders. And specifically with the issue of developing power with and asking for commitments. I also learned about this whole insider-outsider thing, because I feel somewhat like an outsider even though I'm at KSG, and then when I'm in the community I feel like someone an outsider and an insider, so that whole tension is interesting as well. As far as what maybe we could, or a delta for the class was, I actually really enjoyed the reading, and it was kind of hard to balance the project with the reading, and I would have either liked less reading to be able to do it like more quality and to be able to address it and talk about it more in class, because it was just kind of too much, or I think there should be a separate class that really just dives into that reading, because I think it's really rich. It really complements what we're doing well, but it's really difficult to do both.
I work with the Harvard Darfur Action Group on our divestment campaign, trying to get Harvard to divest. We got a little closer to it. They sold another stock, but we're still working on it. I would say the most valuable part of the class has been section, because seeing other people struggling with the same steps that I was struggling with was really helpful, and seeing them learn from that helped me learn too. So that was really good. And in terms of deltas, I feel like lectures are really rushed, and I mean, why not take more time with it? Like extend, have like 90-minute classes or something. And I also agree that the readings were really good, but they weren't talked about a lot either in section or lecture. So if there's any way to squeeze more time to put that in the course, I think that'd be really helpful.
Okay, my project was organizing urban Native Americans in Boston, and as a way to address the federal funding that was going to be cut nationally among all urban Indian centers, health centers, and social service centers. And so it was part of an overall, a larger national movement that was affecting about over 36 Native American health centers. And I think for me, it was, leadership and really about the self too, about how you keep yourself in balance as you go out there, because you're putting a lot of yourself as an organizer going out there, especially, the dynamics that I chose to put myself in, actually organizing among my own people, but also there's that outsider-insider dynamic as well. That sort of was a subtext that I had to keep myself open to, even though I had organized in past political campaigns. I've always had to keep myself fresh and open, and always learning about these, with the new experiences that I had to keep myself in tune to. And so I think that was an important function, as well as really learning that organizing is a craft as well. And that's something that's a craft is there's a sacred responsibility to that as well, that I think I really took from this. Last semester I took a class, the political campaign class, and I know that the professor, Steve Jarding, he was saying that could be even like a 2-semester class. And I can sort of see that even possibly with this, with organizing class, maybe even pushing it, or I don't know how it would be envisioned as a full year-long 2-semester class. So that would probably fit into the Delta as a recommendation.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a great idea. Yeah.
What was that idea?
I was organizing Venezuelans for human rights activism. On the positive of the course, I'm with Anne. I feel that the organizing notes is just a masterful document of wisdom that we really need to. I've been doing some organizing, and if I read that before, I'm sure that many of the things will have turned out better. The idea of doing this course experiential with the reflection paper and the project is a great idea, but I feel that, as Guillermo, that we need to do something about it, because once everybody is on their own project, everybody's going through different directions, and it's very difficult to get everybody in the same phase. So somebody is on the kickoff, other ones in the peak, others are still on foundation. So it's very messy to try to learn that way. So I feel that it will be a very interesting is to try to find a way that we can do all a project together. There are many options. Organizing a conference or a talent show or a book or a video or something through graduation, that we are all organizers in the same focus, so we can give us real feedback about how you're doing, how I'm doing, because we are all in the same boat. And I felt that during this process, many were in many different boats, and it was very difficult to relate to them. That was my job.
Hi everyone. I was organizing Kennedy School students to form an education professional interest council here at the Kennedy School to work on getting more education-related classes and seminars and people on campus, just to keep in mind that I believe it's a very important issue in any kind of policy. So how successful were you? Marginally, we're working on it. It's always growing. But I feel like in this class, I learned that a lot of your learning can come from
stuff you already have, like that story piece resonated with me particularly because it was really hard and it was a lot harder than I thought it was. And so that was an eye-opening moment for me. And then the power with other people that you can gain from something like that also was a huge, huge takeaway for me. Something as far as deltas, like I really just want more time. Like of all the classes I take, this is the one I look forward to because it's a different energy than being in counter stats, and I really just wanted to, and I really just wanted like 2 sections on the reading and then another section, and I know there was just a lot of time spent discussing. Like I feel like there's so much more that we only scratch the surface on, and that's something I wanted more of. And then also maybe just a little bit more on how do you know when your project's over and you need to start something new? Like how do you switch and how do you gear back up and get into the game is something that I think a lot of people struggled with, and I think that's something that I would like to have teased out a little bit more. But of course, learn by doing. So.
I organized organizers on transportation equity issues in Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, and Roxbury. I don't know. I learned a lot of stuff in this class, and almost everything I've learned has been stated already, so I don't want to say them again. But I think the biggest thing for me was the organizing I've done in the past. I kind of felt like there is no way you can take a class on it. I thought organizing was just something you do, and then you just try things, and then you see what happens when they happen. And I think most organizers have that approach. You don't really go to school to learn it. And so the idea that there was a class teaching you how to do it, I thought really peculiar. And then as we went through this, I thought it would be very fluffy, like, oh, we'll just try all these things. And then as we went through it, I realized that it really is an art, that there is a craft to it, and that there is more than just trying things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. But having the frameworks kind of were helpful for me to see that it is a craft and not just something you do because you don't want to do anything else or whatever it is. Delta. Yeah, less readings was my big thing because I just didn't have time to do them, and then I'd feel like in lecture I couldn't participate because I was spending so much time on the project. And more time getting to know each other, all the things people have said, but overall I just thought it was a pretty good class.
I was or am organizing real estate brokers to partner with Habitat for Humanity, and we are actually involved now in the initiative between the National Association of Realtors and Habitat for Humanity to go and rebuild the Gulf. So it's been a really worthwhile learning experience all the way around for me personally. I would say that what I take away from the class mostly is that I felt really valued and heard on all levels in this class, whether it would be in the big lecture or in the sections or with meetings with JMA, the TF, and certainly in having access to you as the professor of the class. I just think the whole thing together made it a well-rounded experience that I'll be able to carry with me. On that note, I would say that my biggest struggle, and I'm still struggling with it, and I don't think we really talk a lot about it, is the power piece. And I don't mean powering with to power over, which I finally understood after numerous weeks. But what does power feel like, and how do we exercise that power in a constructive and healthy way? And then I also think, somebody else mentioned it too, it's different, I think, for women than for men. And I would like to see that somehow incorporated, whether that would be with a guest lecturer, maybe, a woman. Because there are a lot of women in this class, I think, that would benefit from that. Young
women. Yes? we have, this is great. I mean, we completed the round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that deserves a little applause. Wait, before you, I was just thinking, why don't we hear from the TFs about what you found most valuable and what you most want to change? Jimmy, you want to start?
Wow. Yes.
This is a surprise.
Yeah. I think what I've found most valuable from this whole experience was getting comfortable asking questions and challenging people and doing, because it's a fine line, and I think, and I hope, I did a a good job, and I'm still learning at it. But I think we all struggle with that because it's a tough thing to do. Marshall calls it the support challenge, because people are everybody here is committed, so that's not an issue. But we can all do better and more, and we need people to push us and help us reach our potential. And I think getting comfortable with how to do that for each other is a really, and I think I know a lot of people in my section were kind of struggling with that too, and learning how to do that is really powerful. So that's, I think, the most valuable thing I take from this. What would I change? Yeah, not take any other classes. Yeah, I'll have to think about
that. I think Jayma totally said what I'm feeling about the dynamic of support and challenge is a big learning. A huge learning was the way that story informs so much of us. And my own kind of public story, all the stories that we shared in the section, and just kind of getting into the reality of it, getting into the real stuff that we all carry around and we've all experienced. And for some reason we just sort of, especially in academia, we tend to go to some abstract level and we draw the lesson before we tell the story. And there's a lot of power in doing that. And so that's been a really big learning. It's been so exciting to be doing this and even creating a story as we did it. So, I also think it would have been really helpful to practice one-on-ones really early on. Yeah, because that's actually the first time. It is like that little mini place where you start to share your story and build a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, I second the things that Jayma and Rachel said for sure. I think for me, particularly seeing how it played out in my section, relearning the importance of the one-to-ones and the relational work as the foundation of this craft, really helped me, because I always thought that the relational aspect was a strength of mine, and I was thankful to have a space like this where people ask how you're doing and really mean it, and really want to know your background and how that connects to the work that you're doing and why that makes sense. So I was happy to have that here, because I don't think it exists in very many other places at the Kennedy School. As far as what I would change, I think what Charlene was saying had really resonated with me, particularly for students of color. I think it's difficult for us to, a lot of times, well, I'm speaking about my own experience. I don't know if other students of color relate to this, but because we tend to get good, a lot of us, get good at being expressive with talking about what we feel and our injustices in our communities, and have a hard time connecting it to the action piece. And I think having a space to unpack those dilemmas a little bit more within communities of color would be helpful, because I think it's hard for us to do the narrowing down and picking apart that we want to work on, because we feel like we just we got a lot of problems, so which one do we want to choose? So talking a little bit more about that.
You guys articulated most of my thoughts already, probably better than I would have. So
because we have mind meld.
Exactly. TM's all really one. So one of the most exciting parts about the class for me, which I knew coming into it would be, and it turned out to be, was getting to know people from such different backgrounds, with such different experience levels, such different ideas, and being able to work with you all was really inspiring for me to, I know I'm graduating, many of us are graduating or will be graduating, and it's nice to know that there are other people out there that are so interested in doing this stuff, because I know it kind of can feel lonely a lot. It was also great to go through as a TF, because whatever was fuzzy the first time around, I finally started getting it. So he doesn't offer another class, just TF the class, and you'll learn it one more time around. That whole learning by teaching thing really makes sense. Deltas,
Yeah, the storytelling, I wish I would have known, and the one-on-ones, how much more to emphasize that to my sections, the rest of you. I feel like that would have been very helpful for you. Also, I echo some of the comments that were raised by Melanie and some of you all about the issues in gender and race that kind of creep into a class like this. I think the TS had a conversation about some of our struggles being young women and how to handle power and what to do with it. It often gets really tricky, so I didn't have
Well, let's see. My project was a class. Some others. But, let's see, in terms of what worked well. The composition of this class was terrific, really. The mix of backgrounds and experience has really been extraordinary and so fruitful this year, I think. Well, I think the work we did on story, like I mentioned earlier, I think we're really getting to a deeper understanding of how to do that. And I think it's very important stuff on many, many levels. Just in the last few days, I've been in, 4 or 5 different speaking places with environmental organizations, with clergy, and it all seems to come back to this kind of muteness about moral energy, moral concern, and how our own lives connect to the things we care about that's all around us. It's just amazing. It's like venue after venue, we kept going back to story. And it's a powerful thing, and I think that we've learned a lot this semester about how to work on that, to help the story group, but in general. And that's been something really valuable that I've taken from this. Next year, in the fall, I'm going to do a module on public narrative that'll just be on story. And I'm going to focus on self-narrative, on community narrative, on public narratives, and kind of how that all works. And then in the spring, along with the organizing class, we're going to do a class on moral leadership, which is going to meet 1 time a week throughout the semester. MPPs will have the option of taking it as part of their leadership requirement, which is kind of cool. And it's going to focus, too, on this kind of narrative as a source of understanding. It's not going to be a class on Mother Teresa. It's going to be a class about the moral component of leadership. I mean, like there's a strategic component, an action component, but there is this motivational piece, which is where story and values and so forth live. That's what we're going to focus on, working on through the semester. So those 2 things flow right out of this work that we've been doing together. So thank you for the opportunity to do that. In terms of deltas, less reading. No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, either have it and talk about it or don't have it. No, okay. Point taken. I think the thing about, and I think more voices, I hear that too, and I think that's very important as well. I think doing the relational stuff early on, that I think will make a big difference. And I also heard several suggestions of coming up with ways to punctuate the class with greater opportunity for that would be, I think, a tremendous thing to add. We might have to subtract something else, but add that. And this is just generally a terrific list. Both of these are. And I think there's going to be a lot of guidance to us as we work through what to do. We're going to have our own evaluation and go through the whole semester, and we revise what we call the TF manual, which is sort of the codification of everything we've learned about the pedagogy, about how this class works and how to do it. So we revise it every year. And so this year we're going to do another revision. I think we're going to do a pretty substantial revision this year based on what we've learned with you this semester. So this stuff is all going to go to work. It's not just there in passing. So I guess just to wrap, first I want to, I really want to thank the teaching team. They are terrific. I mean, I don't have to tell you that, but we just had a great time learning. I mean, see, because we meet Monday nights and we also meet Thursday after class and do, that's where a lot of my teaching, both juice and energy, goes. And I get a lot from that, watching the movies and so forth, and the tapes and so forth. But this has been a wonderful team to work with, and it's interesting because none of them have taught this before. Two took the class before, Christina and Rachel, and Melanie and Jema took the short version, that sort of rushed MVP version that thankfully we don't teach anymore. But boy, talk about like stepping up. I mean they were terrific. So thank you, thank you so much.
And Sarah, for taking all our calls and questions.
Yes, right. This is Sarah's first year doing this, and which is turning red right now. Sarah's been great. And I guess most of all, I really want to thank all of you for your energy, your commitment, your hard work, your struggle with the real challenges in what we've been doing all semester. I mean, I know. I mean, this is not like easy stuff because the challenge is here, not just up here. This is the easy part. This is the hard part. And I think that the way you've engaged with that is really, really admirable. And see, for me, it's an opportunity to learn from your experiences. And so I thank you for that. It's also an opportunity for me to reflect on my own experience with you. That's a real privilege. A lot of people who sort of, reaching the point in life where I am, you sort of get locked off and you're sort of like sitting there thinking about the old war stories. It's nice to have the war stories, come alive. I mean, I really do think about teaching this kind of thing as having a conversation with the future. And it's a real privilege to be able to do that. So I thank you for that. And I guess I just to end, there's a song, I won't sing, there's a song that, there was a movie called The Inheritance about the labor movement that we used to show on Boycott Live, and Judy Collins sings a song at the end that I'll just say. Fourth grade, they said, "Would you please mouth the words?" And so ever since then, I didn't sing. So yeah, I know. Very sad. That's my story. Yes, my painful moment. No, yeah, it happens to a lot of people, by the way. No, it goes like this: freedom doesn't come like a bird on the wing. Doesn't fall down like the summer rain. Freedom is a hard-won thing. You have to work for it, fight for it, day and night for it, and every generation has to win it again. Pass it on to your children, brother. Pass it on to your children, sister. They have to work for it. They have to fight for it, day and night for it, and every generation has to win it again. Pass it on to your children. Pass it on. Thank you for the opportunity to pass it on.